Hi, I'm Mark Cooper Smith.
And I'm John Danner.
And in this episode of The Resilient Entrepreneur, Building Success and Surviving Setbacks, John and I are addressing the sticky issue of how do we define failure? Well, to do so, we are going to start out with an exercise at the very beginning of this video right here. And we want you to take about 3 or 4 minutes and answer these 3 questions. So hit pause because we're going to be right back in just a few seconds. Answer these 3 questions, jot down your answers, and we'll be right back.
Be as honest as you can be. Nobody's going to look at this. It's just for you.
It is just for you. All right, we are back.
Welcome back. You know, this issue of defining failure is really important because so many of us have very, very different definitions of it. What might be seen as a success for one of us is a failure for the other. It's one of the things that makes this issue so difficult to deal with in any organization, small or large. In fact, whatever your definition was, it's a starting point. But just to give you a sense of how other people that we interviewed for our book have defined the same term, Mark, you want to take us on a little tour there?
I'll take a couple of quotes out of our book here. Let's start in Silicon Valley. So venture capitalist, let me find, hey, this is a book on failure. Where did I find it?
Try page 30, Mark.
Yeah, there we are. Venture capitalist Brian Roberts, who's a partner at Venrock, which is a top VC firm, said that for him, failure is giving up. It's declaring that it's no longer worth pursuing a particular course of action. As we looked in our last video around what percentage of startups fail, well, he was talking about that. Time to shut things down. Another one that we were looking at.
One of the first people that we talked to about this book was the co-founder of one of the world's biggest design agencies called IDEO. And when I mentioned that we were writing this book on failure, he said, I don't even use the term anymore. And I laughed. I said, why is that? He said, because I think failure for most people means fear of rejection, fear of disapproval. So that's one. That's another one. Mark, you got another?
Well, another one along those lines was Bob King, who was the former president of the United Automobile Workers. And he said he prefers not to use the term failure either. He prefers to talk about problems and problem solving, and especially since what he did so often was negotiating and sitting across a table, not painting somebody into a corner using that term failure or winners and losers, but rather problems, was a really important approach for him.
Jennifer Granholm, who's the current Secretary of Energy, but the former governor of Michigan, said failure is itself a failed word. It just doesn't help people very much. Why can't we come up with a word that focuses on learning through a bad experience without being sophomoric about it? A term that doesn't accentuate the bad, but enables the good.
Yeah, and finally, let me quote the founding VP of product design at Twitter, Michael Sippy, who said he thought failure was an outcome you neither expected nor hoped for. John, how about us? How did we end up defining all of this and bringing it together?
Yeah, people asked us, obviously we've written a book on it. They asked us, well, what's your definition? And we debated it. We thought about it a lot. And what we came up with was this, that failure is mistakes and unwelcome outcomes that matter. Now, that's a pretty broad definition. Mistakes, those are the things that we do ourselves, right? It's our screw ups. It's got our fingerprints on it. And as we suggested earlier, we are all expert at this topic. We know more ways to fail than you could ever imagine. But it is also unwelcome outcomes. Unwelcome outcomes, not every unwelcome outcome. It's not like flipping a coin and hoping it's going to be heads and it turns out tails. That probably doesn't matter, even though it might have been unwelcome. But what is it that matters? What's important enough to rise to this level of failure? Now, this topic we'll come back to again and again through our time together. But we wanted to take just this particular installment for you to come to terms with your own working definition. Yeah. Yours is yours, ours is ours. Feel free to change it. Think about it over time. if you want to get some more information on this particular
Wait, before we go,
Yeah.
we go, and then back to you in a moment. One of the key things that I wanted to add to that is when you have one of those mistakes or unwelcome outcomes that matter, what do you do about it? And of course, that's the core topic that we'll be addressing in our future videos and conversations on this topic.
You mean it's not okay to wallow about it and
You're
feel
not,
about it?
no,
We actually have to
exactly.
do something with it.
We know sometimes stuff happens that we don't want and that matters. So the key thing, this is the inflection point in our journey together, John. The key thing is, what do you do about it? How do you turn it from a problem into something that becomes a resource for growth?
We'll see you next time.
Bye for now.
So long.